Okay, I'm going to try to do this one as quick as I can here. This is going to be on uh, reference lines, stationing, and potholes kind of combined, because these are all really important, and you're going to be using stationing, probably stationing a lot, and you're also going to be using reference line a lot. Let me unselect that. You notice I have before I continue. Notice I have that center line. I have two center lines, this one, that, and that one, and if you haven't clicked on them, you obviously don't know which way the arrows are going, and you may or may not when you first click on one as a reference line. Let me unselect that one. I'm going to use this one for an example real quick, and I'm going to exaggerate a little bit here. Okay, so I'm going to select this one as my reference line. Now, why I just use 0. I don't put 0. I keep it at 0 for an offset. I don't put an offset, and the reason why is because number one, when you're walking around out, if you're painting out a line for the guy on the operator to cut this out, just keep it at 0 and watch your reference offset. If you need to go outside that line and dig it by a foot or whatever, just watch your reference offset and do it that way. The only difference is if I put in my offset, it's going to, let me put one in, select his reference. I'm going to put 1 foot. Actually, I'm going to put 12 foot just to exaggerate. And I'm going to go right, and I'm going to punch that in there. Okay, looks normal. I got a 12 foot. Now if I walk around over here, the only difference is the accuracy hasn't changed. I'm still making a judgment call based on numbers that it's giving me on my reference offset. The only difference is I'm using 0 over here. Okay, if somebody else grabs my stick, I mean, this would be probably be obvious, but if you were only 6 inches over or something like that, it might not be too obvious. And if somebody didn't know that you already put in an offset, they might go in over another 6 inches or whatever, so they might overdig it. That's one reason why I don't put anything extra in there. The other thing is this line doesn't, it only exists right here while you're doing this. If I try to unselect it, it's just a little annoyance. It's not actually there, so it won't give you anything to select on. You have to select on it. So just get in the habit of selecting another line. Notice it gives you that option right there. Okay, now the exaggeration that I was talking about was this is what can happen in certain instances when you get bends and these points that come close together. This one wasn't real close, and normally you probably wouldn't be out 4 or 12 feet. Who knows? But this is the confusion, and if you need to get these specific points, there's different ways of going about it better. I mean, or you could just do it this way. Okay, that being said, that's how you're going to select and unselect reference lines. You're just going to do them like that. Now, moving forward, when you're just in general measure mode, you should pick a center line. I mean, depending on what you're doing, if you're grading up this way, you're gonna, I would obviously use this one. If I was grading, up the road here, then I would use this one. So select the appropriate one that works best for you. If you're potholing, it doesn't really matter. You can just pick any one. I would suggest just staying on one, just because it's less confusion later on if you have to find that point. Now, what I mean by this, if you're just in general measure mode, you're over here, you click and measure, and you're just walking around, checking grade, stuff like that, it still doesn't know where you're at. Okay, if I'm going up that road and I have J line and it's telling me my start station is 4,500, I want to select that as a reference line, but I want to make sure I put that 4,500 in as my start. Okay. Now, wherever I walk, and it doesn't matter whether I'm inside the model or outside the model, it's telling me my stationing based off of that center line, that one I selected. Okay. Now if I come over here and I got a do a pothole, and I'll do pothole number 3. I'm sorry, I took it over here, but that's all right. Okay, so now it just took this shot right here, this pothole. Let me zoom in on a little bit. What it does, if you look at point information, not only does it give you your northing and easting like normal, and your elevation that it was shot at, but if you go down here, it's going to tell you a station. What line you had selected. It's going to tell you the station of that based off of that line, and an offset. So at any point with anybody with this information can go to your plans, and they can look at the stationing for J line and go, okay, well I see is it station X, so many feet out or whatever, and you'll basically know where that shot was taken just by looking at the plans. Okay, I think that's pretty much it on stationing and potholing. And I'm going to do some other stuff on potholing, and I'll explain in a little more detail on things. But in general, even when you're just kind of plopping around in measure mode, keep the appropriate center line selected so you know you're stationing, because that does come up quite often. All right, hopefully that helped. I gotta get out of here and get ready for work.